Alright, before we get into the video, I would like to say, if you can, please join my Discord. Link will be in the description. A few videos ago, I showed you how to get inside the description. I don't know how many. I think it was last video or the video before last. So join my Discord. Also, thank you for 951 subscribers. We're really close to 1,000. And I just want you guys to know I really appreciate the love and the support that you guys have given to me for these past few years, technically. Without a further ado, let's get into the video. Hit that intro.
Wanna ask this bitch as that, but that nigga dead for real. Been a nigga block the windows down, but I like jumping out. You clap first, I'm still coming, bitch, we just gon' spark it out. Run the opposition down and knock his fucking tonsils out. Lil' bro smooth his ass, that nigga dead, that's what that chopper about. We ain't ducking shit, bitch, what it is, let's bring them choppers out. Pull up to his crib, that's where he live, oh yeah, we popping out. Ain't no questions asked, bitch, I'm a blast, they know I'm rocking out. When this chopper flash, boy, that's your ass, ain't shit to talk about.
Okay. So the way that Deku will get this power is one day Poseidon would die. I'm gonna say one day Neptune would die. And Neptune's powers, within him he had a bit of Poseidon's powers. The reason, inside of this world, Neptune had killed Poseidon. Why? Because of petty reasons. One of Poseidon's mer people had killed one of Neptune's, people. So inside of all of this heat in the battle, he ended up killing Poseidon and basically absorbing his divinity. Now, Neptune had discovered that he's getting weaker, and at this point, he realizes he can't do anything about it. So this will kind of be like a mix between Neptune and, Poseidon. So while on Poseidon's deathbed, he realized all of the people inside of, Atlantis and wherever Poseidon stays at. I don't really give a fuck. But inside of his domain, let me say domain because I don't want to get something wrong, since he now owns over Atlantis, since he killed the god of the sea. But as I was saying, he realized none of his people were worthy. All of them were greedy. All of them would use it for evil. And if not evil, they wouldn't use it at all, fearing their own power. So instead, he looked across the world, looking into people's fates above land, and he found one boy. A boy at the age of 7 that was just told that he will never have a quirk. Neptune looked inside of his future and saw this boy would one day become the most powerful hero, but he would lose much, and he wouldn't be able to hold on to his happiness that he did when he was training to be a hero. So Neptune decided, since this boy won't turn to darkness, I'll give him my powers. And all I could do is hope that inside of this time, all the bullying does not get to him and he gives in. So then he sends out his last stroke of power. Okay, so over to Izuku Midoriya. Now, it's been about a year. Izuku still hasn't discovered his powers. He's about 8. And I'm going to say he's in the middle of a villain attack. Now, why is he outside by himself? First off, he asked his mom to go and play with Bakugo, even though Bakugo doesn't really... it's not like Bakugo hates him, but Bakugo thinks of him as weak. But Izuku sees nothing wrong with that, so he decides to still hang out with Bakugo. So inside of the midst of all of this, a villain then attacks, and Bakugo and all the other kids are just frozen inside of fear. I'm gonna say this villain had a shark head. He was extremely strong, but his main powers was from a shark. Now all of Bakugo's friends ran away, and Izuku was getting ready to run away. But he realized Bakugo wasn't moving. As he sees the shark man thing try to bite down on Bakugo, Izuku then runs in front of him and pushes him out of the way, being bitten through the shoulder. Now, from this amount of damage, this caused him to awaken his powers that Neptune that gave him. Izuku then blacked out, and the next time he woke up, he saw only destruction and the shark man not dead, but broken and bruised and bloody beneath his feet. And from nowhere, it all of a sudden starts raining, like some type of god can see that he just like some type of god can just tell it was fear inside of him. It wasn't proudness, it wasn't him discovering his powers, it wasn't anything. It was just pure sadness inside of his heart. So Azuka then decides to run away, and yeah, he goes back home and acts like everything's normal. His mom asks him, is he okay? And he says, yeah, he didn't get caught up. He was hiding away, trying to stay safe, keeping Bakugo and them safe. And his mom checks his arm, and she says, what is this? What is this giant hole inside of your clothes? And basically, well, Izuku says, oh, that when the villain had first attacked, my shirt got ripped up from me trying to run away from him. So Inko, not really thinking of, them being teeth marks except for just rips from how worried she was of her son, she just completely skips over it and just hugs him. Now time skip about, I'd say about a few years later. By a few, I mean like I'm gonna say till he gets into middle school. Now, when he's inside of middle school, he's noticed that his healing was a lot faster. But he had gone to the doctors, and the doctors basically said it's nothing like a quirk, but it is something very powerful within him. They don't know what it is. They don't know what affinity it is. They don't know if it's related to only healing. All they could tell him was be careful and don't let anything drive him to the edge, because if it does, it can cost a lot of people their lives. So Izuku stayed numb, I guess you could say, to life. He didn't get angry, he didn't get too sad. He just stayed inside the middle. Until one day, after Izuku raises his hand when his teacher said, who wants to become heroes? Everyone started laughing at him. Now, this made him a tinge bit angry, but he suppressed his feelings completely, so then he wouldn't, cause anybody their lives. Until the teacher dismissed the class. And then Bakugo slammed his hand down on Izuku's desk and said, you're nothing but a quirkless loser. The best you can do is heal fast. Now, what Bakugo said about him didn't anger him. What angered him was he destroyed his favorite notebook, his notebook that had All Might, all the heroes he's ever recorded on it. Completely destroyed. I'd say about 17 pages in destroyed. All the rest were either burning or, had burn marks on them, covering up a lot of things. Now this isn't what drove him to the edge either. What drove him to the edge finally is when Bakugo grabbed him by his collar and basically lifted his hands like he was about to lower his explosions onto him. But right before he did it, the teacher came into the room and he throws him onto the ground. Now this is what drove him to the edge. The teacher the teacher could see clearly that Bakugo was about to do something to him. And he did nothing. He didn't send him to the office. He didn't get expelled. He didn't even get suspended. Nothing happened to him. And this is what drove him to the edge. As Bakugo was walking out of the room, Izuku grabbed him by the shoulder and Bakugo says, "Huh?" As he turns around. Izuku slaps the hell. I'm talking about Chris Breezy v Rihanna, and he ain't Rihanna. So he goes flying across the room and hits the wall. And the teacher basically runs over to Izuku and it's like, "Izuku Midoriya to the principal's office." And as he says this, Izuku glances over at the teacher, his eyes glowing blue. And the teacher doesn't know why, but he feels like his life is actually in danger. He had an enhancement type quirk, which meant even Bakugo, using all of his strength, could still barely do much damage to him. But he doesn't understand why someone that would either just unlock their quirk or, always have a quirk would scare him this badly. He felt like the kid could kill him at any time. But all Izuku did was just walk away from him while keeping eyesight. The teacher was still completely frozen as Izuku lifted Bakugo off the ground. Now, this slap was not a normal slap. This slap was more of like a punch. That's how powerful it was. So, Bakugo's just on the ground thinking, why does it feel like this nigga just punched me, like punched the hell out of me? But all of a sudden, he gets lifted from the ground and thrown into another wall. And the teacher hasn't even turned to Bakugo. I'm talking about he's still inside of shock from how Izuku looked at him. Now, Izuku was 1 second from one side of the room to the other in less than a millisecond. I'm talking about he moved so fast that even someone with a speed quirk would still struggle to see him. And by struggle, I mean they would see him like the Flash, like 1 second there, second he's halfway across town. So he then begins to beat down on Bakugo until the teacher gets out of his stupor and basically he he grabs Izuku off of Bakugo and basically kind of pushes him to the side and he says, "Go to the principal's office now." And as he says that, he realizes the entire time Izuku did not even punch Bakugo. He just continuously slapped him like he knew if he took a real punch, Bakugo would probably not recover from it. So Izuku walks outside of the room. And right before walking outside of the room, he closes the sliding door, and as he does, the sliding door completely breaks off of its hinges. Now, as Izuku's getting to the principal's office, everybody sees his eyes glowing blue. And it's slowly calming down, but it's still extremely an eerie blue. Like, the blue isn't really eerie itself. It's literally the fact of whose eyes it is in. Nobody knows why, but it looks like when he stares at them, he's staring into their soul. He's judging whether they should suffer or not. So at this point, the principal is like, "Okay, since it's the end of the year and the last day of school, I'm gonna let this pass without you getting into much trouble. But this is technically a crime, so you're gonna have to go to court, and the max you'll probably do is community service for a few months." So Izuku then walks himself home. as his eyes are back to normal, and he doesn't know what came over him. He doesn't know why he was so angry. But he just continues walking like everything's normal. Now, as he's passing under a certain, you know, underpass, he senses something there. He doesn't know why he can sense it or how, but he feels like there's someone above him, maybe behind him, maybe beside him. But he does sense someone inside that proximity, or that area, I should say, in his proximity or area. Now, as the sludge villain jumps down, Azuku looks at the sludge villain inside of shock, and to the sludge villain's surprise, dang, I can't talk. To the sludge villain's surprise, he moves out of the way barely. But since the sludge villain is still extremely fast, once he hits the ground, he jumps back onto Azuku almost instantly. Like, Azuku was as slow as a, well, snail. Now, as he's suffocating Azuku, he's basically saying, "Just give up, kid. It'll be better if you give up. You'll suffer less, and I won't really have to drag this out much." Now, as he says this, Azuku's still trying to escape. Well, the, you know, sludge. And while he's trying to escape, he doesn't know what's within him, but he feels something. It's not really like he's feeling something in his body. He feels everything around him. It's not the sludge villain, it's like around the sludge villain. As he continues to feel this, water droplets then start to form inside the air. As the water slowly starts to rip the sludge villain off of Izuku. Now, as the water starting to rip itself off the sludge villain is starting to slowly use more and more strength to hold on to Izuku, trying to trying to crush him. But he realizes he's not doing much. The damage that Izuku's taking is, well, less than minuscule, until he uses his full strength, and then Izuku kind of bats an eye. It stings, but it isn't horrible. It isn't unbearable. It just stings. Now, to make this clear, the amount of strength that the sludge villain is using right now would crush a normal human's body completely. Like, with an enhancement quirk, it would basically render them inside of extreme and utter pain, at least for a normal one. Anyway, as I was saying, okay. So the water then completely like takes the sludge villain off of Izuku, as Izuku's eyes kind of, there's kind of a blue tint inside of them. But right before he can do anything, he then hears United States of Smash. When he hears this, he then sees the sludge villain going everywhere and himself being pushed back a little bit, which is confusing to him since the strength that All Might just used knocked back a villain that could most likely destroy, well, a hero, not a pro, but like, I'm talking about like completely crush a pro, like a hero's body, not a pro hero, a hero's body, like the wood guy. I don't know what his name is. I hate him so much. Anyway, yeah, as the sludge villain then starts to go everywhere, it kind of passes out, and All Might looks over at Izuku, and he thinks he sees something blue within his eyes, but then it completely disappears, and All Might's like, must have been in my imagination. I really am getting old. Now, All Might asks Izuku, is he okay, and basically a few more things, and he then jumps off into the air. Now, Izuku then goes home and he sees a news reports of the sludge villain again. Now, as he sees this, he sees a very familiar boy. He then gets up out of his chair and points and he says, that's Bakugo. And as he says that, Inko then comes inside the room and she's like, why are you screaming? Like, is you crazy? Like, you can't be screaming in my house. Like, what are you doing? But Izuku's like, that's Bakugo. As Inko looks closely at the TV and she sees it's Bakugo, and she basically just gasps out of complete shock. Ooh, this song is good. Never mind. So as she's inside of shock, Izuku grabs his coat and then he goes running. Now this is where I'm gonna leave it off. If you guys enjoyed, I hope you really enjoyed. If you can, subscribe. Go to my Discord. I'll be more active on there. And yeah, that's pretty much all I'm gonna say. See you later.
Power I seek, and if it ain't about the money, then my nigga don't speak. I be in the lab getting immersed in these verses. I'm writing the light brighter than the white in the mime, and I'm working hard like I need an A on assignment. They copy tape like I'm Simon. No walkie-talkie, I'm stacked. Hitting it from the back. Walk around with the strap. Concealed cause I can. It's a city law. Hold up, bitch, you can't, man. I pity y'all. How y'all on the streets where these niggas gonna really rob? I up the heat, aim at his meat, chili dog.